Have you updated to WordPress 5.6 or tried the new 2021 theme yet? If you haven't, stick around. We're going to go through the 2021 theme in this video. Hey, I'm AJ Morris from iThemes, and I want to show you the new 2021 theme and really give you kind of an overview of what you can expect with this new default theme. We're not going to just look at the theme and kind of see what's around. We also want to look at it from a best practices and a dev side of it. So we're going to take a look at some of the dev related features. So if you are trying to build a site with the WordPress block editor in mind, you can use the 2021 theme as kind of a starting place to really see how themes are being developed and what those best practices are. All right, so let's get into it. First off, you've got here, this is the new WordPress 5.6 About page. Very beautiful, beautifully designed page. It's something that's been new. I've always been kind of intrigued to what these About pages look like, and so I'm excited to see a little bit of design changes in this. You can see with WordPress 5.6, some new things are going to happen. So things like greater layout flexibility, more block patterns, upload video captions directly into the block editor, and of course, what this video is mainly about, which is that 2021 theme. So roughly every year, WordPress puts together a new default theme. So if you're just getting started and you're wanting to go get up and running quickly, you've got a theme installed and ready to go. From a theme developer's perspective, though, this really kind of encompasses what I like to think of as the latest trends, the latest best practices for building a theme for WordPress. And so if you're doing any custom development or custom theme work, this is the place for you to go and look at and see what new theme support is available. How do they use it? How do they register block patterns or block styles, for example? And really, how do they work well with the new WordPress block editor? So we're going to be taking a look at that here in a little bit. I just want to show you kind of the rest of this About page, though. So you can see that there's a number of soft pastels, all the way to some dark colors or white. There's a lot of improvements. So make sure you read through this. And obviously for developers, this is all relating to WordPress 5.6. So go check out the field guide right here for more information about WordPress 5.6. All right, so let's go out. I'm just going to view the site, and this is the 2021 theme. So for kind of where I'm looking at this, I'm going to break it down into a no-code section and a developer section. So in this no-code section, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of things. First, we're going to look at the theme customizer and see what they're putting into the theme customizer these days. We'll talk about how do you use the theme customizer, what settings are available to you, and all of that. We're going to take a look at block patterns and block styles, and also kind of what is the difference between a block pattern and a block style. And then I will maybe show you a little thing I discovered with the cover block and a design element that you could do with that. It's actually been around for a while, but it's a little cool thing, so stick around for that. That'll cover the first part of the video. The second part of this video is really going to be all about the development side of a theme. So if you are a developer and you're wanting to look up the best practices, see how this theme is built, see how do you register block styles or block patterns. We're going to be covering all of that, and we're also going to be covering something new that they've introduced in this theme, which is CSS custom properties. So we're going to be taking a look at what those are and how you can use those inside of your own development with themes. So let's get into it here, and I'm going to go into the customizer first, and then we'll go into the back end. So to launch the customizer, as long as you've got the admin bar up here, you can click on Customize, and this will launch the theme customizer. Now, if you have used any other theme out there recently, I've been a longtime Astra user, a GeneratePress user as well. Moved over most of my new development or new site building over to Cadence theme, and they all use the customizer in some way or shape. And so this is very familiar to me, but let's walk through that a little bit, and I think it might be familiar to you as well. So you have site identity, and site identity is where you can upload your logo. So you could put a logo up, you could change your tagline, or your site title. You could choose to display or not display those, so you can see what that looks like if you don't display those. And then you have a site icon, and that site icon is what people have referenced the technical term, a favicon, which is the little browser tab icon. It's also used in any of the WordPress mobile apps. If you're an iOS user, I'm an all Mac user, so I use iOS a lot. But if you bookmark a site and you put that on your home screen, that little icon, kind of like the app icon that you would see, could reference the site icon as well. So that site icon gets used in a lot of places. You can just upload it. You just click on it and upload or select an image that you've got from your media library. I'm going to come back to colors and dark mode. I want to kind of cover the ones that are typically here, just to make sure that we're aware. So I'll skip down to the bottom and kind of work my way back up. So there's additional CSS. If you are wanting to go the no-code route and you don't want to create an extra plugin, you don't want to create a child theme, you just want to use the theme as is. But if you need to add custom CSS, you can do that here in the theme customizer. So you could do something as simple as body background white, and you can see how it goes to white. You could come in and do a black, and you would see how it gets changed. So you can add your CSS, and it shows in real time right here. The beauty of adding the CSS or any custom CSS that you're doing into this additional CSS is that it gets concatenated and minified, basically saying it gets included with the existing files that are already loading for your theme. So you're not going to have to worry about getting into the dev side of creating a CSS file and making the theme use it. All right, so let's go back out of there. Excerpt settings. Now, this one I've not seen at the root or the home place, but excerpt is just for your blog posts. So if we go over and look at a blog, for example, you can have summary or full text. Of course, the Hello World post is so small these days that you don't really get to see what this excerpt setting does. But essentially, the excerpt is like the first 55 words or so. So a small, maybe a couple of paragraphs versus the entire post. So you can set that up, and then on the archives pages like the blog, or even a category page like this uncategorized, it would change this text right here. Homepage settings. This is common for the theme customizer. It just allows you to set your homepage. So do you want it to display your latest posts? Do you want it to display a static page? If you choose static page, you'll see you've got your homepage option and a blog post page option or a post page option. You can set, so you can go in here and set those with what you want. All right, widgets. So there is a sidebar or widget area on this 2021 theme. It's actually down here at the bottom, It's in the form of a footer. So this is an interesting way that this footer works from what I've seen. It's basically left to right, and it's 3 widgets, and then it goes to the next line. So you can see here that the search is first, then recent posts, then recent comments. So it goes this way. And if you were to add, a couple of other if you were to add a couple of other images, another couple of widgets, you see how it gets pushed in. So, you can add the menu title. You can also now, move these around, and so you see that the menu goes there. Now, what's also interesting is that in like a tablet view, it seems to get 2 across, and in the mobile view, they are all right there in the order that it's listed. So, it's really just kind of saying, okay, let's go 3 across, let's go 3 across, let's go 3 across. So that is your widgets. Now, the other new thing with 2021 is that it includes 2 menus. So you've got a menu location up here, and does that actually do, so it does do like a hamburger menu, but there's a second menu, and the second menu is actually down here in the footer, right here. It defaults to the social media. I added blog just so that I could see what it was doing. But there is the option to add a second menu. So here is that secondary menu. If we remove this, it now looks more like what you would normally see on the default. So you can create a new menu and assign it to one of the locations, the primary or the secondary. Or if you only had one menu, but you wanted it to show up twice, you could just have it show up twice. Really cool to see that they're including a secondary menu location now. All right, so let me scroll back up here, and I'm going to go to background image really quick. And I just want to assign it a background image. So here is what that looks like, and you have some preset options for your image. So you could do fit to screen, you could do fill screen. When you do fill screen, the image is static, and so all your content goes up in front of it. So you can see what that looks like here. This is this type of thing that you would need to do with your blocks, is to make sure that your blocks have a background color, so that the image doesn't bleed through and it makes it hard to read the text like these. I don't really see too many sites using this, maybe for a landing page or something very specific, but not all site, like a full site wide. But that's not to say that you can't use an image that you design in something like Canva that maybe is just, geometric shapes or something that you want to have displayed as the background image. I would like to see some updates to this. Maybe the background image feature be page specific. So you could, if you're building a landing page, use the block editor, throw in an image like this, maybe put an opacity to it. There's no opacity here in the theme customizer currently to do that. So that's something I would look at probably doing to really make this feature be usable. So we'll go ahead and remove it, but it is there if you want to experiment and play with that. Let me scroll back up and finally go into colors and dark mode. Now I had already activated dark mode to see what it did, and I think it's going to take my setting as off. So that's fine. Dark mode is this idea of kind of swapping out colors to make it be easier, or supposedly be easier on your eyes when you're in dark mode. So dark mode's been on iOS for a few years. It's been on Mac OS for a few years, and so there's it takes a device setting. That device setting is then passed into your browser. The browser then sees it and relays that to the web page so that you can then have dark mode. So the way that dark mode works is it can be turned on or off right here. So I've got it turned on. If I go ahead and turn it off and on again, it's going to turn on because I'm in dark mode. So you can kind of see what it does to your site. It makes the text be a lighter color and the background be that darker color. It does not change things like this need help section where they set the background color to this pastel green. So that's dark mode. Pretty cool, kind of experimental feature. Unfortunately, I do not know much about like, is this something that you should do, something you shouldn't do? I'm not a fan of reading white text or light text on a dark background. I'd prefer the dark text on a light background. I think that's easier for my eyes, but it is an option. So let me turn that off, scroll back on up, and let's talk about the background color. So you do have a way to write into this palette, and we're going to talk about that in the second half of this video where we start talking about the developer side of things. But they've included all of those pastels that you saw. So you can come in here and click through to change up the pastel, or if you wanted a darker color, you could do that. You could do any color spectrum you want. So here's all sorts of ways to do it. One thing you'll notice that as I kind of have gone through and selected colors, let me just get rid of that one, is the font has changed. So I didn't actually have to do anything to, as I was changing the background color, the font colors just changed themselves. Again, we're going to talk about that in the second half of this video, so stick with me for that. I'm going to go ahead and leave it as this like pastel mint green. Just go ahead and publish, and that really covers everything in the theme customizer. So I really like to see that they're doing some work in here, making if you're going to use this for a blog, I think that there's some really good settings in here that kind of keep it minimal. All right, so let's go out and go and create a page. I want to talk about the block patterns and block styles that are included with 2021. And before I do that, let's actually talk about what is the difference between a block style and a block pattern. So a block style is something that is assigned or set to a specific block. So you can really kind of do what it says. You're styling the block. So there's a default style. There might be a couple of different style options that you have, and that's the way that 2021 is working. Is there's some options for styles in your blocks. How does that work? Let me show you here. So we're going to go into we'll just do an image. That's the easiest one to kind of show you. We'll go ahead and pull in this image of a pasta dish. And if you look at the settings panel over here, you'll see styles. And the default style is basically not set or default. There's just nothing there. But you could go over to rounded. You could go over to borders, and you can see that there's a dark border that gets assigned. Or you could go to a frame where you have a little bit of space around the image, and then you have a border. So you have some options here that you can do. I like this borders one, and this is something you're going to see a lot when you start to play with the 2021 theme, is that borders is a style for a lot of different ones. But you can also do frame as well. Those two are kind of the ones I like. Now there is a default style drop down, so you can set that right here. You could say, okay, I always want borders. And so once I've set that right here, if I go in and I add another image, we'll go into this one, you will see that it applies that border automatically. So one of the nice things that you can do is you can have that default style set and always use that. But then, maybe you want this one, you want it to be framed. You could just come in here and click the style option that you want, and it's then framed. All right, so that's block styles. Let's look at block patterns for a second. I'm going to go over here. So there's a couple ways to add blocks. You can click the little plus sign right here, or you can click the big one that's blue in the upper left-hand corner. And when you do this, you get the block panel that comes up, and there's a tab called Patterns. Now, block patterns have been around for a while. Primarily, I think 5.6 they started, or sorry, 5.5 they started to ship a couple of patterns so that you could see how they do it. But now we are full steam ahead rather to do patterns. With 5.6, you now get this drop down, so you can go and look at what patterns you want, which I like that. So we're going to look at just the 2021 category here for a second, and you can see there's all of these patterns. Now, what are patterns and how are they different from the styles that we just covered? Well, patterns are they could be a collection of blocks set up, styled, designed a certain way, and you always want to do that. Maybe you want to change out the content, but it could be a pattern. So one example I think of in a real world scenario, these patterns are great for this theme, but coming from building sites for businesses that primarily take and use their website for e-commerce, I think of something like a pricing grid or a pricing table would be really beneficial to have. Maybe you want to have a few different styles, but you want to have a set of blocks all working together, all set up a specific way. That, to me, is what a block pattern is used for. And so I could see easily, a theme saying, okay, we're going to use a block pattern of a 3x pricing grid, and now you can come in here, you can click on it, it jumps into the block editor, and then you just go in and change prices, you change features, you change button links, etc., and that becomes what it is for a block pattern. Now, we've gone in depth into what block patterns are. So if you head over to ithemes.com/blog, you can find our WordPress block editor or WordPress Gutenberg posts and find the block pattern post. I will include it in the description of this video, though, so you can check that out if that is something you are interested in learning more about. And as we get into the dev side of this video, we will also be covering what does it look like to register a block pattern and how do you kind of create it from a code level perspective. So this, again, here is that block pattern. I can then just come in, replace these images with my own. So I was doing a video not too long ago, kind of creating a foodie or like restaurant, not even restaurant, more of a food or recipe type site. And so I've got a lot of food images that I'll just use for this. And so you can see I've just made some changes, and maybe I want to say breakfast, the important meal of the day. So, you can come in here and change that, and you don't have to worry about anything, right? It's just kind of, you dropped it in, you go in and change the content to be what you want it, and then you're good. Now, you'll also see that this columns has some styles. So there's overlap and default. So here's how that looks like. I think it was on overlap originally. It overlapped right here. So that's that's what you can see how you could use a block pattern and then also use styles to give it a little bit of a different look. All right, so that covers the main things of 2021 that I wanted to cover, right? We hit on the theme customizer. We hit on block styles. We talked about block patterns here. We even talked about the new dark mode support that they've integrated. The last thing I want to show you before we kind of get out of this no code area is something that you can do with the cover image, or sorry, the cover block that I haven't really, I never really thought about until I was just playing around with it. And so to do it, I need to first add columns, and I'm going to add 3 columns wide, and I'm going to go full width on the column. So that gives me the full width of the page. And then in the first column, I'm going to add a cover block, and I'm going to go to my media library and select an image. Now, we'll use this image. I like this one. I think this one will help really well. So in this cover block, you want to make sure that you're on the cover block. So, however you want to get into it, if I happen to click on the title, you see I'm on the paragraph. If I hover over the block type right here, you can see that I can go up a level to the cover. If I use the block navigation outline up here, you can also go into the cover. So you just want to make sure you're in the cover block. Now I want to go in and I want to apply a border, and I want to do a fixed background, and I want to get rid of the overlay opacity. So I'm going to get rid of that here. And what you'll notice the minute I clicked fixed background is it took the image and did exactly what it did in the front the theme customizer, right? It took the image and said, okay, I'm going to blast it full width of the browser window and just make it fixed. And so when you start to see it here, you start to see how the cover block almost becomes a like a window to the image that's in the background. Well, check this out. If I duplicate this block, so I have 2 of them now, and I drag it over to a column, look at what I did there. It basically put 2 windows next to each other, and now you're able to see it. So I can do it again. We'll go to duplicate, and it really doesn't matter which cover block I'm moving, but you see what it did there, right? It moved to create 3 windows. So if I go ahead and publish this, and we'll just view the page. So I get down here to that section. Here is that image. It's being called right here, and then it's in each one of these cover blocks. Because the cover block is set to have the background as fixed, it creates this window effect. This is really cool to me. It's not anything related to 2021, but I found it while I was playing around with 2021, so I thought it was worth a mention. All right, so that is all of the no-code side of the 2021 theme. I'm going to take a quick little splice here in the video, and I want to show you what we're working on for the dev side of the 2021 theme. What does it look like? And we'll come back to that. Before I do put a little split in here, though, I want to make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. So make sure you click that subscribe button, and also click that little bell so you get notified of when we have new videos up on our YouTube channel. All right, before we get into the second part of this video, where we're going to be covering the developer side, or really the code side of the 2021 theme, I wanted to make sure I mentioned that we have a theme building course with the WordPress block editor that we are running in the end of January 2021. So if you are interested in building your own theme, or maybe even using some of the new theme support that you want to take advantage of, things like the block patterns, the block styles. How do you create a theme really kind of from scratch? We're going to be covering all of that and more in this theme building course. So I'm teaching this course later in the month in January. I hope that you will join. And with that, let's get back into the video to talk about the 2021 theme from a code perspective. All right, so I hope you have been enjoying this video, and I am really excited to see what your thoughts are. So make sure you're leaving some comments below. But let's go ahead and take a look at the second half of this video, which is all about the code side of things with the 2021 theme. So just to give you kind of a quick overview of what this section of the video is going to cover, we're going to cover what does it look like from the theme structural aspect. Like, how is the theme structured? Where are things located in the folder structure? We're going to take a look at theme support and what this theme adds for theme support and how we might use those in our own themes. We're going to take a look at block patterns and how they get registered, how you create those block patterns so that they show up in the block editor. We're going to also take a look at block styles, and then we're going to take a look at the CSS and really look at the new feature that they're using called CSS Custom Properties. This is one that I really like people going and looking at, and so we're going to spend some time there. And obviously spend some time looking at the CSS from how did they add styles and all of the styling associated with those. So let's get into it. So I'm running this locally, and so I can make changes to it and have it be applied to the site. But I think for the most part we should be good at just kind of viewing the code. So I'm going to try to make it a little bit larger so we can look at the code versus the site behind it. So the first thing I look at is kind of like, what is the folder structure setup with the 2021 theme? Now, at the time I started this video and at the time of the recording, this 2021 theme is, I'm looking at the what they've pushed out into, I think, one of the later RCs, and so I do have the trunk from GitHub here. So it may be a little bit different, but for the most part it should be okay. It's interesting to me they threw every CSS, images, and JavaScript all in an assets folder. I like that. I remember when I was doing custom theme work, I never threw them in an assets folder. I always had the CSS, images, and JS out at the root level. So nice to see that there. And then inside of there, we've got some CSS, we've got some images. I'm not really sure what those images are for. Okay, so these are images probably to help with the default block patterns, is my guess. So that's why they're included there. There's some JavaScript related files, and that really rounds out the assets. Classes, looks like there's some classes. There's a dark mode one I see really quick that caught my eye. So we might dig into those in a little while. There's include. So in INC or include, I see block patterns and block styles. So we'll be looking at those here in a little bit after we cover some theme support side of things. Looks like there's a starter content.php. That's a pretty cool thing to go check out as well, especially if you are wanting to include starter content in your theme. So we'll get out of there. Template parts. I like how everything's kind of in folders itself. So if you're relating to template parts for the post or the header or the footer or content parts, they're all structured and organized really well. And then on the root, the rest of the root outside of the folders, we have kind of all of our PHP files. So the standard 404 archive, comments, footer. We'll come back to functions, header, image, index, page. All those PHP files are needed. We've got a search and a search form and a single. We've got a screenshot of what it looks like for the like themes page. We've got a readme.txt file that talks about some of the copyright, some of the libraries that are included, who built it, how do you install it, all of that kind of stuff. We've got a right to left CSS file, and then we've got our main CSS file. So pretty standard structure of a theme. I really like. It actually seems to be pretty well thought out and well organized. I really like to see that. So that's really kind of the theme structure here. But let's go into the functions. The functions file, and we're going to look at this function 2021 setup. So with the 2021 theme, it supports post formats. So there is the array of formats that it supports. You can see it set. It does post thumbnails, and it has a post thumbnail size. It's registering the menus. It's got some HTML5 support, so it's including that here. Something for a theme logo. Okay. Here's some good theme support. So theme support for customized selective refresh widgets. I'm not sure what that one is. But I haven't been doing custom development of themes in a while, so that one's an interesting one to me. I'd probably Google that and see what I could find. The block styles, that's good. So you're adding support for block styles, which means that this theme has some block styles that it's registering with the block editor. Here's some editor styles. So just loading in the editor style. That's how you got the like mint green and all of that in the background. It's actually this whole section is needed there to make that work. We talked about font sizes and those font preset options. So those are right here. This is available for the editor. So that's the block editor here. That is what allows you to go in and if I add a paragraph, I can go in and look at these sizes over here. So that's what that covers. So you can kind of read through this, and essentially you could copy and paste this into your own theme, replace 2021 with your own domain setting, and you'd be good. There's the custom background color. So it's setting a custom background and then setting a default color. So that's an interesting piece right there. These are your variables for your colors in the color palette. And then you're adding support in the editor for all of those to show up. You also have some gradients, so you can see what those gradients look like. And essentially this gradient right here, or this code right here, is just some CSS code to display the gradient or how it would would set up by default. Then you have, so here is the starter content. And if you're in, it's done only once in the customizer. So it looks like it's only going to show up in the customizer. That's kind of interesting. I guess I don't remember that. If I started making changes, does that go away or not? So I'm not sure how that gets set. I wonder if it's not the customizer like we were in. I wonder if it's, if I go to appearance and themes, no, live preview maybe. It must be the live preview. That's where it gets. No? No. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that that starter content, how that works. I'd probably have to look into more of that. So you've got some other theme support like customized embeds, or responsive embeds, excuse me, custom line height controls. You've got experimental link color, custom spacing, custom units. Here's your widget that you register, your content width. So this is actually showing you your content width is set to 750. Your scripts, you can queue some scripts. You've got your block editor scripts. So looks like they're loading a JS file for the editor. Scrolling through here a little bit, there's a lot of requiring a lot of what those classes or some of these files that were in the INC or include folder. The one to note here, I think for me, the two that we're going to focus on next are these two. So your block patterns and your block styles, they are separate files, so we can kind of dig into how those would look like or how they would work with your site. And that's really all I wanted to cover in the functions file and for support of theme support here. So lots of really good takeaways you can pull out of this. So I'll let you do that. But let's go ahead and go into, we'll do block patterns first. And here's a block pattern. So you can always reference the registration, the register function or the register category. You can grab those links and read up on the developer documentation. I always find that looking at code in this way, though, of looking at a sample site or a sample theme and doing that helps me better. So we're just going to look here. The first is just a function that says, go ahead and register the block pattern category. This is what comes in when you are creating a new page, and you go over here to pattern. You get that 2021 category. You're essentially saying all of my block patterns are going to live in that 2021 category, or at least I'm registering that first. The next one is you're going to look for the function exists for register block pattern. If it exists, you're going to run through a lot of code. Now, this right here is all the code you need to have in order to register a block pattern. This is pretty cool. So let's go through this a second. The first one is kind of the name of what it is. So we're doing large text. And then we have an array and we pass some attributes. So we've got a title called large text. We're throwing it in the category of 2021, which we registered up here. You can see up there. You've got a viewport width, and I looked at this and I still don't really understand what the viewport width is of. Like why you would need this, but it's there. So 1440 is I think like the standard viewport of a Mac laptop. So I guess that's what we can kind of get some insight on as they were developing with a Mac. Then you have content. So this content right here is all the content you need to create the block. So you can see that heading, and you've got an H2, and you've got some styling around the H2 class, and you have some other styling in the block itself. So line height of with typography, you're using the gigantic font size, your alignment is set to wide. So when you drop in this large text, it's going to apply all of that for you. But if you wanted to align center, maybe you wanted to change it to an H3, maybe you wanted to change the font size. Actually, let's go to like extra large or huge. Now, you can do that, and we could actually go in, and we'll do this right now, is we're going to replace this content of this large text block pattern with what we just changed. So to do that, you click on these the three dots, and then you go into code editor, and you're going to see those little brackets. So here is that block. So if we take this, we copy it, and then we paste it in, and I get it all on one line just so it's the same. So it's all on one line now. We'll save that block pattern. I'm just going to exit the editor, go into a new page. We're going to get out of the code editor. So we can go here to visual editor, or we can exit the code editor. Now I'm going to go into my block patterns, and you'll see my large text, and you'll see it's what I just changed it to. So there is a real easy way to create block patterns and essentially copy this block of code, change out 2021 to something else, give it a name of whatever you want, give this something, some other name as well, and then add in your content. Once you do that, you have your own block pattern. So real easy way to do that. And we have a video, or not a video, but a blog post that talks about block patterns that is down in the description. So that is block patterns. Let me get out of what I was just making a change to. And if we reload and go back to our pattern, I might actually need to jump out and go back in. So now we can see our block pattern of large text is back to the 2021 default. All right, so that's block patterns. Let's go look at block styles a second. So here are your block styles. So again, you can go reference this developer link if you want to read all about it, but essentially we're looking to see, hey, does the function exist? If it does, run the code, and at that point we wrapped everything in a function, 2021 register block styles, and then we have the register block style block. So this block style is going to be on columns. So the core columns here, this is the block that you want to apply the style to, and core is what you expect. It's WordPress core files. If you wanted to apply styles to other blocks, you would want to understand what those are looking like. For example, generate press might be something like generate press or GB for generate blocks, or maybe their generate blocks is what they call their blocks, and then this is the block name from that collection. Then you just pass it an array, And this name here, this is important. This needs to be written like you would write a CSS class. And then this label is just what's going to show up in the side. So if I come over here to styles for a second and see where it says overlap, if I change this to something else, it would change it over here. So that's how you have the block styles, and you can see all the block styles that they're registering are all on here, and then they just have an action, add action on init, run this register block styles. So that's it for registering the block styles. Now, actually getting them to be designed, that's in your CSS. So let's go take a look at the CSS file, and we'll come back and do an overview of this in just a minute. But I want to look at those block styles. So there's some commented out code here that kind of gives you the structure of your of the CSS file. You can see blocks, components, utilities, and then you can see these are all specific styles for those blocks. So if I find columns, okay, so that isn't going to help find it. Let's do this. I think this is how I did it last time. I want to look at this column overlap one. So let's copy that, and then we'll do a find. And so you can see it just gets us to the CSS a little easier. Here is that CSS. So you have WP block columns. That's what initially gets set as a CSS class. And then you have this is style hyphen. This is hyphen style hyphen is what gets applied when you've registered a block style. You can do default, or this overlap is going to have that. So you're going to see something like is style hyphen, and then you're going to see that name. So 2021 hyphen columns hyphen overlap, which was defined in your block styles, that name is what gets into the CSS. So now you just write the CSS. So in this case, justify the content space around, and then you have a whole bunch of other classes or other properties that you're making changes to. So background color and padding, padding on the left, margin on the top, and so you can see all that right here. And this is all inside a media query. So that's how your block styles work. And we could go deeper into that, right? We could go look at the border one and look and see how that's styled. There's a few different options because the 2021 border works with groups, it works with images, it works with cover blocks. So there's a lot there. All right, so that's block styles and how you would use them. Again, I'm going to go deeper into all of the like block styles and setting those up ourselves in the theme building course towards the end of January. So if that's of interest to you, I've got that link in the description below. But let's go ahead and take a look at this CSS file a second, and mainly looking at the CSS custom properties. So this CSS file is pretty standard, right? You've got your block at the top to tell WordPress, hey, this is a theme, and here's all the theme details about it. And then you go into this settings section, and it's broken up into different areas. And I think the interesting thing for me is that I'm guessing a lot of this was set up with the Sass. They were using Sass to write a lot of this CSS while they were in development, and I'm guessing that this might not have been pulled out when I downloaded this from GitHub. So that might not be there, but in any rate, the thing I want to focus on is this variables. So custom properties, CSS custom properties is a pretty awesome way to write CSS. It basically gives you've got dash some keyword, and then you've got the attribute that you want to pass it. So, you could do something like left, dash left align, and maybe you just put left in here. If you wanted a color, you could do that, or you could do some complex value, something like if you were going to do settings for a border. You might do something like this. These are the kind of like common syntax, and an example might look like you're going to do this root, and you're going to do first color, second color, and then you're setting the color value here once, and then you use this custom property as var with parentheses and then first color, and you can then use that first color wherever you want, say, that color scheme. This makes it really easy when you want to change color scheme, because if you have all of your colors set up in your properties, your custom properties, you can just make those changes once, and at least you're 90% of the way there. You might have to swap out some colors based on where you're at and what type of color you're changing, but this kind of gives you that idea. This is a common practice that we would do as developers in SAS, writing SAS CSS or SCSS. We would set up our variables and use those variables throughout our site or throughout our writing of our CSS, our SAS CSS. And so these custom properties are now built into CSS, meaning you don't need to use a preprocessor to write CSS variables. Support for this has actually been out for a while. So if we look at custom properties itself, and we look at let's go to like Firefox, for example, it's had support all the way since 2014, excuse me, so 6 years. Chrome was 2016. Safari was 2016. Opera was 2016. Edge was 2017. And obviously all of the latest versions that are out now support it and continue to support it. That's the variables custom property. You also have the CSS property like the --star with a var, and they too have been supported for quite a long time. So the good news is that 95 to 90, 93 to 95% of the world that's out there in browsers are going to support this. So you should feel pretty confident when you're building a web page to be able to use these global properties. So let's look at what some of the global properties are set with the 2021 theme. You can see right off the bat they've got some font family, and what's really good about this is they're using a var they're using a property inside of a property. So they're using font headings or font base here inside of both the primary and the secondary, and then they have a number of other options here depending on what fonts are available in the system stack. They've got all of their font sizes listed here, so they're also using REM or REM, so that's something to consider as you're looking at that. You've got your line height, you've got your headings, so they're looking at font family and font H1 through H6 sizes. You're doing some calculations in here as well, which is interesting. Allows you to do some of that. So this var size large, for example, might output, looks like it's 1.5 rems. So it's going to do 1.5 times 1.25 and give you the H3 size there. You've got some letter spacing. So I mentioned that a little earlier that you could have letter spacing changes. So there are those right here, as well as a normal letter spacing. You've got things for blog posts. You've got colors. So here, as I was mentioning, these global colors, this is a great way to just come in, change the colors that you want, and you'll see a new color scheme across the entire site. There's things for spacing, properties for forms. There's properties for blocks specifically. So the cover block, buttons, header, main navigation, pagination, footer, and then you've got block like pull quote, block table, widgets, the admin bar height, and then you kind of get into CSS. And so the rest of this is all just the CSS that they've written for the theme to work, and that's all there. You've got some root options for media query variables, and you might change those variables depending on what media query is being pushed out. And you can definitely take a look at this file to see, how you would use these custom CSS properties to, speed up development of your site. So, really, really good use of some best practices here as the 2021 theme becomes our new kind of default theme with WordPress for the next year, and we're really seeing some best practices at play, some things that I'm really excited about. So that is it. So I just want to recap what we've covered in this developer section. We talked about the theme structure, looking at the left-hand side here of just how beautiful, how well organized this is. We took a look at theme support and how do you get theme support for things like block styles or block patterns, and how does that all fit into your theme. We took a look at block patterns and how you create block patterns, even going as far as creating our own block pattern, which was kind of a cool thing. Read the description below for more in-depth articles on block patterns. We talked about block styles and how you style it with CSS and how you register it so that the block editor knows about a style. And then we talked about these custom CSS properties and being able to say, this is a way to really speed up development of your theme. So really, really good to see that in here. And I think this is probably the first default theme I've really been excited about in quite a while. Not from the visual side of it and how it looks and functions, but really from the dev side of it to see, how do you do block patterns? How do you do block styles? How do you use CSS custom properties to put forth a good quality theme in what has become a quite crowded market? So all of that is in here. All of that is more. The first half of the video, we did cover a lot of the no-code side. So what does it look like to just interact with the theme using the theme customizer? How do you interact with the theme or the block properties and the block styles? And this is a really quality theme that I'm excited to see how people use it in real-world settings. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you click subscribe, make sure you click the bell so that we know that you enjoy these videos, that you also are getting updated when we do push out new videos. And until next time, or our next video, we will see you around.